Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good day, everyone. It is Wendy here with Raise the Vibe Initiative. To any of you returning incredible beings, thank you so much for being here today. I am incredibly honored to be of service to you amazing souls during this incredible transitional time on the planet. Today, I have a beautiful guest, a guest that people have had a lot of questions about and are very excited for. We have Lazarus Initiative regular historian David Emery's on the show today. Little bit about David. David was born in Ireland just after World War II, and he moved to England in 1954. His first fascination as a child was both history and tennis, actually, which he continued through most of his life. He is an incredible historian. He is a very awoken, brilliant man. He went on in his life to become an excellent tennis pro, taught many tennis pros himself. Also a career as an English and history professor. Very excited to have David on the show today. We are diving deep, deep into New Earth. We are diving into the mechanics behind what we are going to be moving into in the coming days. He is wonderfully explaining some really cool concepts. Ensure that you stay to the end. We are going to talk about New Earth relationships, getting into futuring New Earth, what we can expect to see moving forward, and so many interesting and mind-blowing topics today. So everyone, without further ado, please let me welcome you all to the brilliant David Emery.
I'm raising a vibe.
Welcome, 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 everyone. It is Wendy here once again with Raise the Vibe Initiative. To those of you who are returning here, I am so grateful you are here, and it is my honor to serve all you incredible souls through this incredibly amazing transitional time on the planet. As promised, I have the historian and the great David Emery on the show today. David, thank you so much for being with us today. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for such a great welcome. And I'm actually delighted to be here and to share some time with both you and all the people who watch your show. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's sincerely our pleasure. I've had so many people interested in wanting to hear what you have to say. A lot of people do know you from being a regular guest on Lazarus. And, you know, there's just so much information that we're all kind of dying to know. And I guess at this point, I think, you know, a lot of my prior shows have really been about sort of the understanding that we are shifting into a new reality, that this is the time where we are starting to come in and create, you know, new earth or, you know, the golden age. Many people know it as different concepts. But what I wonder, David, and because you're so knowledgeable on this, and I wonder if you could give us a brief sort of summary of, you know, where did this all start and where are we where are we now? Where are we going in all of this?
Well, we're here at very pivotal times. In fact, you, Wendy, have already pointed that out so brilliantly, and all of the people who are members of your fraternity will know this. It is a pivotal time. So where did it all start? Well, ultimately, it starts with the creative pulse of the God mind. Now, I often am reluctant to use the word God. It doesn't matter what title we give to the pure consciousness energy of all that is, but it all starts from there. And so, where we are now is a result of billions and billions of years of expansion of consciousness and contraction of consciousness. So, what happened with us is that we came from an expanded consciousness concept down into a contracted consciousness. And that's why we ended up, I mean, there are lots of historical details behind that, but we've ended up here in first dimension, second dimension, and third dimension in what is known as our harmonic universe one, which is the lowest frequency and the lowest oscillation and the lowest vibration, and also the heaviest density. So our particles are dense and heavy here. And our purpose is to, and it has always been, is to expand that consciousness back up the stairway to heaven so that we return to the original seed of consciousness, which we have encrypted within us anyway. And that is the whole history of our existence, encapsulated in just a few phrases, because we are now in the process of expanding consciousness back again so that we can rise through all the dimensional expressions of who we are. And there are many of them. We are in our incarnate expression now, in our physical form, but we have many other identities in different harmonic universes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, all the way back up to our original seed of consciousness, which we have encrypted within us. And so the pivotal times we're in now are when there is a huge shift in the expansion of our consciousness, our awareness of our own selves. And you, Wendy, and all the people who are listening to you, you are at the cusp now of stepping into a new expanded consciousness identity self, which is your soul self. In fact, some of you are going to be stepping into your oversoul self, which is dimensions 7, 8, and 9. It seems an extraordinary thing, but it is truly wonderful. So that's the situation we are moving into through expanded consciousness, our soul matrix identity.
You know what? That is very cool. You know, I wonder, and that actually sort of brings me into this concept of multidimensionality. And this has been coming to me quite a bit lately. So it's so, you know, it's so appropriate that you're here today. Maybe you could sort of clarify a little bit about what is multidimensionality. And as we are making this shift, do you believe that we will shift, that our matter will be shifting? People have spoken about a crystalline type structure that can take place as we go further into sort of a light body or a higher consciousness. Can you explain a little bit about one, multidimensionality, and two, if we, you know, may notice that our matter might change or our physicality may change in a certain way?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it's particularly important now as you expand your consciousness. You feel that your identity is your own self. You know, like my identity is David Emery, and yours is Wendy Mahoney, etc. But we want to carry our identity, our knowledge of ourself and our physical bodies, if we possibly can, with us to wherever we're going to go, and so yes, the issue of taking our body with us is important, and especially when you're vibrant and still full of energy and lots of dreams and goals. You want to take this body that is you in your incarnate form with you wherever you go. So where are you going to go? Well, we're really talking about bio-spiritual evolution. Now, of course, all through our education and through previous lifetimes as well, we've been locked into the cage of confusion, I call it, because we've been told that evolution is to do with physical adaptation and the ability to become more successful technologically, etc. And this is evolution, you know, bigger cars, more wonderful places to live in, etc., better transport. But you see, that's a very limited three-dimensional view of evolution. The evolution that we are all really involved in and always have been is bio-spiritual evolution. So what do I mean by that? Well, you see, you have your incarnate identity. That's you here, Wendy, and it's me here as Dave. But you also have your soul matrix identity, and that's in dimensions 4, 5, and 6. And that is substantially greater in terms of size. It's huge. It lives longer. It lives for thousands of what we would call Earth years. And it is much less dense. It has lighter, higher frequency particle base. And then beyond that, you have the next harmonic universe, which is dimensions 7, 8, and 9. That's your oversoul self. And that is you. And then you have harmonic universe 4, which is your 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensional identities. That's your avatar self. And beyond that, sorry if this is getting a little bit too much to take, but you have your rishi self, which is the 13th, 14th, and 15th aspects of you, your identity. And that is, in fact, that's gaseous light. I mean, it's not physical particle based. And it's absolutely enormous. I mean, we're talking beyond the size of Texas. So we're talking about identities that are all you. You are them and they are you. Now, we've been trapped in time down here for many, many thousands of years. And part of the entrapment has been to forget who we are. We've forgotten who we really are, our identities are, and that we are connected through our soul matrix collective to all that we truly are, amazing, wonderful beings. And we've thought that we have just been our own subtle little bodies down here, capable of living for maybe 70 or 80 years, and then that's it, then it's all over, and we come back sometime, perhaps if we believe in reincarnation, and we start all over again, and we can't remember anything from the past. Right. That is because we have been trapped in time. So, can you take your body with you? Yes, you were always meant to. In fact, millions of years ago, when angelic humans and they lived on Earth way back, well, we're talking 25 to 30 million years ago, you could ascend into these other dimensional aspects of yourself in one lifetime. Now, the lifetime was many thousands of years long, but by the age of 12, you had acquired all the dimensional frequencies of dimensions 1, 2, and 3. By the age of 22, you had acquired all the dimensional frequencies of 4, 5, and 6. By the age of 33, you had acquired all the dimensional frequencies of 7, 8, and 9. And finally, by the age of 44, you had acquired all the dimensional frequencies of 10, 11, and 12. And so then you could ascend, if you chose. You could ascend into your avatar self and prepare to go further. And you could travel anywhere. You could reconstitute your physical body anywhere in all of the other dimensions if you chose. So that's how we originally took our body with us, or we could stay on Earth for many thousands of years. That was the intention. That's the creative design. That's the cosmic divine program. But of course, as we all know, that program got seriously distorted for so many reasons. That's what makes up the cosmic history. And when you realize what the cosmic history has been that you have lived through, you think, oh my goodness, what a story this is. This is way past Hollywood, this one, because it's epic. Okay. So can you take your body with you? Yes, you can take your body with you. It's been very difficult, almost impossible before, but now we can, because you see, we were meant to transmute our particle base, our electrons and all of that stuff. We're supposed to be able to make them lighter, less dense, and our crystalline bodies shift from carbon-based, which is what we have now, to the crystalline base of silicate carbon. And in doing so, when you make that transition, that transmutational shift, your body disappears from this dimensional realm, 1, 2, 3, and reappears in harmonic universe 2 with lighter, less dense frequency of particles. And your particle base is capable of existing in a higher harmonic universe. That's what it was always meant to do. And all throughout history, humanity has been trying to do things like that. How can we make our bodies more eternal? How can we continue to live as we are in higher dimensional universes? Well, there are ways, and the first way is expansion of consciousness of yourself, to know who you are.
Oh, that is profound. That is very profound. Which would then sort of lead me to wonder. I've looked at the Merkaba. Me, if I'm getting that connection. Got a little better.
Yeah.
And you know, in traveling, basically, I've heard this concept that we can multidimensionally travel based on learning how to master vibrational frequencies once we've received, you know, the consciousness or what have you. You know, what I wonder is the planet itself now going to shift into this, or is it already existing in these realms and we would then, you know, accompany sort of the planet? Like how does that play? Because when we talk about new Earth and creating new Earth, how does this play out in all of this other information?
Okay, well, it is complicated because divine cosmic science is complex, and yet the purpose is simple, but the details are complex. And you're quite right. A lot of things have happened to make it somewhat confusing, but let me try and explain. Originally, each individual aspect of God mind, when it became individualized in the incarnate form like you and I are, the purpose was to slowly, through spiritual evolution, to move up through the stairway to heaven, which is one harmonic universe at a time. It's like going up the staircase back to heaven, okay? And it took, and has been taking, a very, very long time from here, all right? Now, of course, we exist on Earth, and Earth is a being just as you are. And it exists in a specific morphogenetic form and allows us, for our morphogenetic form, to be birthed upon her so that we can be a part of her frequency fields, all right, dimensions 1, 2, and 3. But she exists as an entity within herself. And she has a higher dimensional identity, and that is called Tara, which is harmonic universe 2. And she also has an identity self called Gaia, which is harmonic universe 3. And she also has an identity self in harmonic universe 4, which is Aramatena. So you see, she moves in ascension, taking her body with her into the higher dimensional realms, because that's what it was always meant to be. Now then, this is where the history of our world demands that we have to understand that things have shifted and things changed. Because for many, many billions of years, Earth was on a descending planet, not an ascending planet, no ascension, but a descension movement. And that is because its frequency was getting lower and lower. And the reasons for that are because of cosmic wars and because of fallen beings who distorted the mechanics, the cosmic mechanics of solar and planetary systems. And Earth was one of them. So for billions of years, Earth was in the process of becoming a descending planet. And at one stage, in the late 2011 and early 2012, Earth had pretty much decided that it was going to give up. It was just going to stop and become eventually space dust. But something wonderful happened. And this is what has caused the shift now. Instead of us ascending one universe at a time, a special fail-safe mechanism was introduced in 2012. And it's a result of very complex history, which many other people are much better at explaining than myself. But the history of the NOMI code wave, which is a fail-safe crystal bridge passage system, which is held within the eternal internal worlds of God Source, was activated in 2012. And what did this do? This meant that Earth shifted her whole vibration and became desired to not descend, but to ascend. And so it is a noble planet with a NOMI wave encryption, which is an astonishing failsafe, which is designed to not just help her ascend and all the life field within her, but also the whole of our local universe and our galaxy. The whole thing is going to shift into a new Akasha realm called Eartha 3, Urtha, Eartha 3, which exists many, 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 many thousands of years ahead of our Earth time now. So the answer to your question, is this an individual ascension? Yes, but also it is a collective ascension. And so that means that the whole of our Earth, all the planetary frequencies that can manage to take the ascension will go. So she will shift, and you and I and the people listening, anybody who's listening to this is an indigo angelic with sixth dimensional frequencies assembled and in the process of being activated. So some of you have seventh and eighth dimensional frequencies activated and beginning to be activated. So you see, if you're listening to this, you have the frequency resonance to wish to ascend with Earth. So she is going to move, and if you choose, you will move with her into a future Earth, which is truly amazing.
Oh, I feel we've all been waiting for this time. I feel that we are at a tipping point in the collective, and we've all worked so hard to get to this point. I really do feel that, you know, there's been a huge shift that's happened. I even see it in my day-to-day life and reality. I think, boy, this is heavenly. Like, you know, my surroundings are so beautiful, and I'm in nature, and I'm noticing the flowers, and this whole vibrational shift of how I am connecting with the earth and understanding the unity of all things, and just this unity of everything that is. I think that's likely part of this new way of being. Would you agree that we're sort of shifting out of these ideas of separation and coming back into this unified collective of sorts?
Well, what you're talking about there is probably the primary. Well, it is the primary cosmic law, and the penultimate one is free will, which can lead you anywhere and has. But the ultimate law is the law of one, unity consciousness. And you're absolutely correct. When you truly feel this in your own particle base, it becomes an aspect of, it's in your heart that you are connected with everything on the earth itself, all the trees, the bugs, the bees, the birds, everything, then that is the primary motivating energy for you to become aware of who you truly are. And when you become aware of who you truly are as an aspect of oneness with your own unique encryption, but still an aspect of oneness, that you are part of the all that is, that is the primary energetic force that pulls you back to home. It takes you home.
So excited listening to you talk. It's so exciting. I'm actually getting chills. Just very, very exciting time indeed. So, I am a big fan of Jane Evershed as well, and I know that you and Jane are good friends. And I was watching your last episodes on Futuring New Earth that you've done with Jane, which were very enjoyable, and I highly recommend the audience to follow and have a look at those because they are fantastic. They cover so much information. But you know, I guess I apologize if we don't know why the gremlins are here. Um, I keep hearing deletes, and I, you know, I have love for everybody. I feel like there's just a lot of woundedness and there's a lot of people in trauma, and I try to send them compassion and say hurt people to a certain degree. But there has been some real travesties have taken place, and it's really gone. It's broken universal law. And so what happens now with souls that are choosing not to ascend this time?
Sorry, can you just repeat that question again? Just the last bit of it there.
I'm sorry. I wonder the gremlins. I wonder what happens to the souls, you know, that are choosing not to ascend. They're not choosing to embody the new codes.
Well, it always sounds a little unkind, this, and of course it's not. It's the situation is that we have that the penultimate law is free will. It's interesting that we have 10 commandments. There were originally really 12, but the powers that be took out the top two, which is free will and the law of one. So those top two are critical. So the free will one. You see, every being of source has the free will choice to go wherever it chooses. And this creates a lot of problems for those of us who are awake and aware and able, because we think it seems, oh, it's terrible that, you know, it's very upsetting that, you know, some people haven't chosen to do this and they're experiencing that. And it's, I don't know how to handle watching the, you know, the pain and the suffering, etc. But if we believe in the law of free will choice, people make choices about how they choose to expand their consciousness or to contract it or to live the life that they choose. And that's why we can't interfere. We can give advice, perhaps. You can't help people to save themselves. They have to do that themselves. You can't do it for them. And so we have to honor them and respect them for whatever decisions, even though some of them seem to be totally crazy in view of how we review our reality field. Their reality field is different. So there are many people and many beings and aspects of Earth herself whose frequency resonance is low, and they are still in the process of free will choices that do not give them expansion. It gives them contraction. And so they are locked into the belief patterns that they have about themselves and about the earth, that only this can happen and only that can happen, and this is the way the world works. And so they're stuck in that place. And now all we can do is to love them and give them respect for how they feel. If they come to us and say, "Oh, things aren't right, I'm not happy, can you give, what's your advice?" Well, then perhaps a door has been opened and you can help. But otherwise, every being in source is choosing their own pathway, and they choose between the destiny of joy or the destiny of sorrow, the pathway of order or the pathway of chaos. It is a choice. And I am so grateful that I have finally, after being on the pathway of chaos, I'm now on the pathway of order, and I feel joy and love. But there have been times, Wendy, way back in the mists of time, when I have been on an alternative path. And I am just very grateful that I awoke in time.
Absolutely. I think, and thank you to you, you know, for your service to the collective. I know that a lot of these angelics, such as yourself, has likely taken on quite a bit of things to transcend in their lifetime to get to this point. So I'm fully aware, and myself included, have definitely seen a lot of contrast. And you know, I think it's gotten me to a point now where I can thank the polarity and the contrast, in the sense that I had an experience to understand what it is. But I think again, sort of moving into now more of this unity piece, and also the futuring of the new earth, being in that place where we are now consciously co-creating this new existence. We are no longer in that old matrix. We've broken out of that into being fully co-creating this new reality. And I love Jane Evershed again. I want to mention her. She says futuring new earth. And this is a verb, and I love it. I think, wow, that's fantastic. Now, if we are futuring new earth, what does that look like, David? What can we maybe you can paint a picture of what that looks like for you.
Well, obviously, I'm going to have to use words because if you saw my drawing and painting skills, you would be laughing right now. Um, but this is why my relationship with Jane, which I so much value, is brilliant because she's amazing with painting, drawing, and graphics as much as anything else. So anyway, let me try and paint it with words. So what's it going to look like? Well, it's going to be hugely different, of course. You are going to be living enormous lengths of time. So there will be no death. There'll be no disease. Those are actually anti-cosmic programs. That they're not part of the divine design. That was never meant to happen. So you will have vibrant health. You will have the ability to utilize all of your 12 senses. Now, we've got 5 down here, and a couple of mine don't work very well. But, but we've actually really got 12. And that means that we can do so much. We can create so much. So let me use the word create there again, because you can create reality. Now, to create reality means that, okay, if I want to have a pizza, I can just, there it is, okay? So that's just me being silly, but I could create a pizza if I wanted. But the only way that you can create reality instantaneously is if you have complete control over your own identity and your ability to think, the control of your own thoughts. So if you are locked into your ego self, as I have been in the past, if you're locked into your ego self, you really have no control over your thinking processes, how you create through thought. So you can suddenly have an emotional outburst and say something and think something that if it instantly manifested, oh my goodness, no, I didn't mean that. So in our future Earth, we will have control over all of that, the ability to create our reality through controlled, conscious awareness of self and our unity collective. And that is going to make life wonderful. And you'll be able to connect. Oh, here's another thing. I love this because I've been on journeys to the 8th dimension. I've written about that. And there you can talk to the trees. I remember a song from 1972 by Clint Eastwood when he appeared in a Hollywood movie, called I Talk to the Trees. And I remember in 1972 thinking, well, that would be nice, but yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. But you can actually communicate with all plants now. But in the 8th dimension, you can actually communicate with them and they communicate back. Flowers will open their fields, their petals for you, and they'll shower you with their perfume, and then they'll shrink back, and then they'll come back out again. And this is their method of laughing. There's so many things. Trees will talk to you. You'll feel the resonance coming through your own vibration mechanisms. And animals and creatures. Yeah, I promise you, it was going to be amazing. Oh, and the light is also astounding. You know, we have wonderful sunlight here and moonlight as well, and it's terrific. But wait till you see the future Earth. The light there is absolutely amazing, and it fills everything with radiance. There's radiance coming out of everything. Oh, and how about this? You can talk to the rocks, you know, because the rocks are frozen frequency, and they're actually that they have their own identity, their own personality. So, you know, you could go up to a crystalline rock of a mountain and put your hand on it, and if the resonance is right, it will transmit pictures and sounds of its previous existences, and you can do the same for it. That's unity consciousness. That's you in total connection with Earth. So if you wanted to know what future Earth's going to be like, that's an example.
Oh, that is incredibly exciting and fun to imagine. I already do speak to the trees, but they haven't yet spoke to me back. I'm waiting though. Oh, I just what a beautiful imagining. Now, do you believe there's many people that have different concepts about time? Is there even such a thing? Probably not. But do you believe this is something that we are currently co-creating, that we're going to be experiencing in earthly time? I'm sorry for the connection.
Well, we won't have earthly time when we go to Eartha 3. Well, Eartha 3 will have its own time sequence. Actually, time doesn't really exist in the creative pulse of God mind, the seed of consciousness, which begins us all. There is no time. There is everything. Well, there's time and no time. There's space and no space. There's movement and there's no movement. There's light and there's dark. I mean, you get the picture. You know, there's polarity and there's no polarity. There's matter and there's antimatter. So you get the picture there. But when you downstep your frequency through the stream of consciousness into the living sparks of flame, which is where we are now in the holographic universe, is yes, time does exist, but it only exists because it's important to be able to construct the holographic cosmos through what we call sequences, you know, where progressions can be made. You know, expansions of consciousness is a progression. It's a sequence of remanifesting your conscious awareness of self. You with me? So that is a sequence, and a sequence is really like a time. It's like a cosmic clock. So the external worlds are manifested over a period of sequences, 15-day sequences, and they go in a clock formation. So when you've gone all the way around a clock 360 degrees, you're ready for the next sequence. Okay, so time does exist in that sense, but it's not linear, and this is where it gets very difficult, because when you have a human 1, 2, 3-dimensional mind like I've got, I was never very good at maths or science way back in the day. So I always used to sit next to somebody who was good at it so that I could copy them. Yeah, I know, it's terrible, isn't it? But my science and my maths weren't very good in those days. So this is difficult to take on board. But you see, time is not linear. It doesn't go from somewhere over there in the past to somewhere over here in the future. And I'm just sitting here now in the middle in the present. Time is simultaneous. So wait for this one. Time is continuously occurring. So as you expand your consciousness, as you have, Wendy, and all the people who are listening, and I know you have, as you expand your consciousness, you've expanded your frequency of consciousness. That's the resonant rate of your awareness of self. Okay? Now, as you do that here and now, what's happening to all of your previous lifetimes? Well, because they're still existing. They're still there. Now, they have slowed down to what we call frozen time, but they're still there. All right, they still exist. Like the mountain, I said you could put your hand on the mountain and it would tell you things. The mountain's not moving. At least you can't see it because it's so slow. The breathing of the mountain is so slow you can't see it, but it's there. It's existing. The same with your previous lifetimes. They are there. You can't see them or feel them, but they are moving and existing as they did. So what's the significance of your experience here and now? As you expand your consciousness, your awareness of self, you increase your frequency of consciousness, your resonant tone of bass tone and overtones, and that transmits itself to all of your previous lifetimes. So you increase their frequency of consciousness. And so you can manufacture or manifest within them a shift in their consciousness. So as you expand your consciousness into sixth and seventh and eighth dimensional resonance, which you're doing the same for all your previous lifetimes. So in many of your previous lifetimes, and I don't know you, Wendy, and I don't know any of your previous lifetimes or any of the people who are watching here, but I know you've had them. And there are many, many, many of them. And I also know that some of those lifetimes made decisions which were to contract consciousness and to do things that perhaps you wouldn't really have wanted them to do. But if you transmit your frequency of consciousness from where you are now, you shift their choices, you change the decisions they made in the past, and you bring them all together here, the resonant frequencies, with you as you are now. Now that is awesome.
Wow. That is fascinating. And I can relate to a certain degree as you explain that, because I say my prior lives as though I had the experience, but they do not resonate. Like I didn't really have that, it's shifted as I'm shifting. So that's very interesting. Wowzer. Wow.
That means that what we do now, in fact, in the film, sorry, I'm talking about films, but let's face it, our life is a movie anyway. I've spoken before about Gladiator, and when Maximus was talking to his soldiers before a battle, he said, "What we do in life echoes in eternity." That's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
You can make your previous lifetimes re-echo the sounds that you sing today.
Wow. Phenomenal. Wow. I can't say anything else. So then I guess that also leads me to think about our role in the collective consciousness. Now, if we are conscious, if we are resonating at a very high frequency and we are in the co-creator frequency or a creator frequency, how then does this affect the collective consciousness of all? Does that make
Massively,
okay?
hugely.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness, yeah. This has been ongoing throughout history for millions of years, but especially for the last 800,000. And yeah, I mean, your incarnations in your case, and in the case of, and I'm mentioning this here now to you because I'm here with you, and the case of many of the people that I work with and talk with, your incarnations began 800,000 years ago, 798,000 BC. So you have them going all the way back there. And this thing about the collective, we are individuals. So you have an individual encryption, which is unique to you amongst the whole of the cosmea. There is nothing and no one like you. However, we do have a collective responsibility, as you've just said. And the indigos are particularly vital in this. Oriphims and angelic humans and indigos of the past have the resonant frequencies of hundreds of thousands of ordinary human beings. So your resonant frequency, and it's very difficult to explain this, but your resonant frequency is of such a high degree that it is the same frequency factor as 100,000 individual humans, all right, who don't have the same frequency, all right. They have frequency and they're as valid and as unique and wonderful as you and I are, but they don't hold those frequencies of conscious awareness of self, all right? And that's because of the DNA strands, because we now hold between 12 and 48. Originally, it was always 12. Many human beings hold 10, 11, 9, even less, all right? and a lot of those are not assembled. So we are operating at a very high frequency of consciousness. So how does that affect the collective? Well, massively. In fact, way back 50 years ago, when things were about to go belly up in our world, things were very, very difficult in the 70s and 80s. And Earth was was going to be a descending planet. In those times, it was desperate for indigos to raise their vibration enough so that there would be 8% of the indigo population, 8%, sorry, 8% of the human population, which was basically indigos, would be operating at fourth and fifth strand DNA activation. It was vital because if we could get to 8% of the population operating at a higher frequency in our DNA strands, we could save the Earth. We could save the whole collective. And it was nip and tuck for many, many years. It was very close. Now, of course, there are so many indigos expressing themselves, like yourself, Wendy, and Jane, and Sasha Stone, and many, many others, Ian Parks and Elizabeth Monroy. They're all out there, and they're carrying the frequency which affects the collective. So can you imagine if you have 100,000 indigos just walking amongst the ordinary human population? They are spreading frequency. So this brings me to one other thing, if I can say, can I?
Of course.
And this is that I remember years and years ago, I was walking through London with a couple of friends, and they were typical. I must have been about in my early 20s, and we were walking through London. There was a guy sitting begging. You get a lot of that now, but in those days it was very unusual. And my two friends immediately said, "Why don't you get a job, mate? You're just useless, aren't you? Useless, waste of space." So they was, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't quite sure. Well, it didn't seem right to say that for some reason. Okay. So fast forward now, and it doesn't matter what people do. You can be a multi-billionaire. You can own half of the world. You can have traveled to the moon and back. You can have been the world's greatest footballer. It simply doesn't matter except to you because it's what you wanted to do. But in terms of frequency for the whole consciousness of the planet and the collective, it means zero. What does make a difference then? The person sitting begging or at the street corner, just listening to his music or playing cards or whatever it is, he is doing something which is unique to him. He is sharing his frequency. He's holding frequency, his unique frequency, and he's plugging it into the grids of Earth, the morphogenetic field. And that is affecting the whole of the collective. So every single being, even if it's a centipede, is holding its own particular unique frequency signature. And it's going into the morphogenetic fields of the grid. So, Wendy, what I'm saying is that what we do in life echoes in eternity. It's our frequency that counts. So just you sitting here and talking with me is expanding the frequency of the morphogenetic field and the collective just by doing what you're doing, just by being who you are. And that's the same with everybody. Just walking about in the precinct with all the people, you don't have to say a word to them. You don't have to rush up and embrace them. You are simply spreading your frequency, your resonant tones out into the collective. And in doing so, because you are such a high frequency individual, you are changing the shape of their signature so that they expand their own frequency. And that is really what we do for the collective. That's what you're doing.
Well, can I turn my whole environment and all my people into beautiful, loving souls? That would be great. Well, thank you very much for that. That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense to me, as I understand vibration to be such that, if we look at Stephen Hawking's scale of vibration, which I'm sure you're quite familiar with, if you've read any of his material.
Some, yes.
Basically, he does, sort of show kind of the resonance of each frequency, and of course, fear there being the
Yeah,
lowest, and as we sort of ascend up, I believe he says enlightenment is the highest, love would be the second to the top. And when we are vibrating in the lower realms of sphere, so to speak, the vibration in the morphogenetic field, or our auric field, is very small, and
yeah.
as we are vibrating in the higher energetic fields such as love or enlightenment, the field just massively grows, and it turns into this very large energy that just radiates. So thank you
You're
for
absolutely, yeah.
that.
No, you're absolutely, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Forgive me. But yeah, I just wanted to say you're perfectly correct about that, and about the different levels of resonant frequency of emotions, because the emotional body is the dimension two aspect of us. It's the instinctual elemental energy, and so yes, the lower frequencies such as fear and shame and guilt are so powerfully contracting. They pull things down. And isn't it interesting? I know that Jane has done such wonderful work explaining how the religions, for example, and the various, well, Christian religion, but all of them have given us this outlook of, oh, we are guilty because Christ died for our sins, so he saved us because we're such fallen sinful beings, and this shame and this guilt it just buried us in a low frequency environment, so we couldn't rise up above it. So what you're saying is absolutely correct, and this is what the collective requires, and this is who you are, and this is part of our purpose, our mission. Many of us have come here, well, all of us have come for a personal mission, but many of us have come for a collective mission. And that's you, Wendy, and that's the people who are listening, and all the other names I've mentioned, and many, many others from the past. We have a collective mission, a purpose to expand conscious awareness of self through our frequency.
So wonderful to be finding my soul family, people like yourself. It's very exciting. Very grateful. On that, though, uh, interestingly enough, you bringing up religion, Jane just did a wonderful video speaking on this programming that has gone into the Humanities Collective. Uh, Can we talk a little bit about, so obviously they have really, pinpointed this Trinity of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, I believe. Now, can you talk about actually the truth behind sort of what the Trinity is? And I'd like to dive in also a little bit to the divine feminine and masculine, if you would.
Sure. Well, as Jane's covered it brilliantly, but the divine Trinity is how the holographic worlds, the external worlds in which we exist, manifest in a crystalline form, and the original Trinity is an aspect, shall we say, a circle of the original God source, which is the earth scientists call it the 0 point field, or the void, or it's the seed of consciousness. It's a pure consciousness. So that is one circle. We call it a particle, and it's 1/800th billionth of a billionth of a light photon in size. But it's still consciousness. It's pure consciousness. So that is the initial Trinity piece, and then out of the Trinity piece comes a particum, which is an elemental particle of magnetism, basically, which is sound. It is sound formed as magnetism. And out of the sound comes light, because sound is the glue that holds all matter together in the external worlds. Sound is the glue that holds all matter together. So out of sound comes light, and light is the particle. and light is electric. So now out of the original particuli of God source comes sound and light, electricity and magnetism, which is electricity is thrust going out into the universe, and magnetism is drawing in, nurturing in the universe. And these two they separate out, always connected to God source, and they come back in and they replenish through fission and fusion. They replenish their quantum of God source energy, and then they go back out again. So it's like breathing. And then they come in and they go out and they come in. And that's how life is progressed infinitely and eternally in the external worlds. And so that is the original Trinity. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, where does the masculine and the feminine come in? Well, you see, sound is vibration and it's magnetism, but it's also given a feminine title. And electricity is the masculine title. Electricity is oscillation of light. And so those two work together, oscillation, vibration, magnetism, electricity, and light and sound. And that's why we have the divine feminine, we call it, and the divine masculine. But what has happened in our world and in many universes, not all of them, there are many universes that are perfectly cosmologically divine. But just in ours, we had some issues. And one of the issues was to do with electricity, the masculine. And that is, masculine leads to patriarchy, where the patriarchal energies of control and thrust and outward, creation are permanent. And there is reluctance to bring them back in to nurture with the feminine and to fission and to fuse with the feminine and with the original particuli. And that's what's happened in our whole time matrix, in fact. We have been cut off from the breathing of God source and the eternal infinite life. And we have been introduced to a finite life. That's why instead of, we shouldn't be dying and shouldn't be having disease. But that's why we have had this, all right? Because we have been shut off from the infinite eternal energies for a long, long time until now. So the masculine and the feminine are aspects of the original Trinity. But of course, those people who wrote our records, those are the Belial sun and the Black Sun DNA beings, and we know their names: Anunnaki, Draconian, Nephilim, Zetas, and so on. They wrote our records from 9,558 BC, the last fall of Atlantis, when we had the flood. And since then, they have controlled all historical record. They've wiped our memories. They've destroyed our language patterns. They've done all sorts of things to prevent us from remembering who we are, and that we are aspects of God's source, and that we have the magnetic and the electric, and they are supposed to conjoin together as one and to breathe with God's source. That is the Trinity. And we have been given an alternative Trinity where there is no feminine, or there is a distorted feminine. And that has been the history of much of our lives. And it is only now, in the last 30 years, that we've really come to realize that, in fact, that was nonsense. That's not real at all. And through the work of people like Jane and many others, we're beginning to realize, oh my goodness, we're together as one. And that means the masculine and the feminine. Am I allowed to say anything more on that?
Sure, please do.
Okay, well, in 13,400 BC, the Earth's parameter shield was switched off. Now, the parameter shield, if you can imagine the sphere of Earth, there are many shields that operate through the Earth and up and down. But there's another one which goes around the outside. That's the parameter shield the Rishi shield, and that connects everything in energetic terms together as one. And when that was shut off, it had a deep and abiding effect on the masculine and the feminine, males and females on Earth, and not just with humans. It had the same effect on lots of the animal kingdom and so on. And what happens there is, you see, in every male there are Adura crystals, and in every female there are Moda crystals. That's male within the female and female within the male. Those are crystallines which appear in 4 parts of the body, and they merge and blend as one in different parts. That's the tailbone, the navel, and the thymus gland, and in the latue, that's the pineal. And those Adure and Moda crystals are supposed to blend together. And that is what gives us the relationship between the masculine and the feminine, which allows us to resurrect the infinite nature of God source within us, because we are aligned. And that was the initial intent of cosmic divine principle. But in 13,400 BC, because of we lost the parameter, the Rishi shield around us, that distorted all of that and shifted our ability to connect through our Moda and Adura crystals. Now, the good part about this is in August 2003, the Mahadra Adrana code, which is a massive cosmic code which has so many of the other codes within it, and also the feminine and the masculine energetic signatures within it, that was reconstituted into the grids of Earth in August 2003. And that code is behind me. I could take it off and show you, but I ought to send you one of those. But that's the Mahadra Adrana code, which is very, very powerful. And what is it? It's the Ark of the Covenant key code of Earth. And that is incredibly powerful. So since 2003, Wendy, men and women have been getting together as they should have done.
That's beautifully explained. Thank you for that. I have been under the understanding a lot of it is about integrating those aspects within ourselves.
Yes. Because I have feminine energy within me, and you have masculine energy within you, and it is a question of aligning them. I mean, I know that over the last few years, my feminine energies have come much more to the fore, and therefore they're much more in alignment with my masculine energies. When I was much younger, I was totally electric and masculine, and I'm going to make things happen, and a man does this, and a man does that, and this is that, and fortunately, I have actually changed. You'll be pleased to know.
Well, just for fun, if we were to talk about the external manifestation of the masculine and feminine, we've seen so much distortion around the relationship between the two. In the new energy, what could we expect relations could look like? Would they from where they are now?
Well, obviously, I mean, on Earth, there are many wonderful relationships between a man and a woman. I'm not saying that everything has gone down the tube. And some are absolutely wonderful and the way they should be. But I'm just saying that since 2003, this opportunity for that, and for you to meet your twin flame, for example, because since 13,400 BC, that's been almost impossible to meet your twin flame, but it has happened, but very rarely. And now, of course, there's a greater chance. And for you to connect with the inner twin flame that is within you, that's the feminine aspect, the feminine energies.
Right.
The situation when we reach to New Earth will be very like, there's an old Cherokee proverb, I can't remember the exact words, but the thrust of this proverb, which I thought was wonderful, it's from way back in the 1500s, and that is that the man sustains and protects the woman's energy, and the woman brings the man in touch with his spirit. Oh my gosh, I just found that just amazing, because that is what it is. The woman brings the man back into touch with his spirit self, because he can forget it so easily. Did you know that on earth, every woman has 60% of her spirit self energy here, and the man has only 40%. So that means that the man is much more likely to become involved in 3D energies and to forget his spirit self. And he relies upon the woman to bring him back to who he truly is. Now, that's the relationship that will be reconstituted. And if you think about it, over many, many millennia now, men and women have been separated in so many ways. And this has been deliberate, is so that the woman does not bring the man back into his spirit self. And in fact, if you notice, religions are run mostly by men. In the past, 500,000 years ago, as I remember, women were very, very powerful shamans and priestesses. And they had a deep connection with the masculine and the feminine and the whole collective. And that was slowly shut down, so that by 2,000 years ago, men ran the religions. I wonder why. Because they didn't want the feminine energies to bring the man back to his spirit self. And that is what's going to happen in the new earth. You're going to have women holding the man spirit in her heart. And the man is going to be cherishing and sustaining and protecting the woman in the midst of the world.
How beautiful. How beautiful. I think I may have rephrased that. It's nice to think about how a spiritual relationship looks like, or how a relationship looks in our highest aspects, certainly going to an earthly experience. We are programmed in many different ways about what that looks like. So thank you for sharing that. Wow, there's been so many interesting things. I'm sorry we're getting the ground. They show up often when we're doing a transmission like this. David, is there anything else you wanted to share about where we are and where we're moving to in the next little while?
Well, I can't predict the future. In fact, I've never been very good at betting for anything and guessing what's going to happen down the line. What I can say, though, is that you cannot stop an idea whose time has come. And the time has come, everybody who's listening, the time has come for us to take Earth and all those who wish to join us into a new era of love and joy, in oneness, in the heart of Source. And you can do it. I promise you. I know you can do it, because I'm doing it, Wendy's doing it, many people are doing it, and we are not going back to what was before.
Such a beautiful and exciting time on the planet. David Emery, thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, and I wish you all happiness and joy and expanded consciousness of self in every moment. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Namaste.